Good morning, and welcome. Welcome to Winning with Real Estate. I'm James Davis with James Davis Realty Group. Also, we have Dennis Fields with Guaranteed Rate, and we also have Thomas Wilson with Edward Jones. And so today, just to let you know what today is about, it's about empowering and enriching you all with information when it comes to purchasing a home. Not only about purchasing a home, however, learning about the process of working with a mortgage lender and also financial advisor that we have in place today. Because one thing that we fail to realize in some cases that everything begins with a plan and also begins with money and learning how money works and how you can use money to your advantage to be able to do the things that you need to do. I was talking to one of the guests here today, we have a young man in the back, and I'm not going to call your name, but anyway, we were talking about not wanting to work the rest of his life, right? And so not wanting to work throughout the 70s and 80s and all of this good stuff as far as being that old, enjoying life, because you don't want to let certain things happen in your life that forces you to live life. And so it was about the analogy that I used. It was like going on vacation. Man, we all get in this funk. We know we're going on vacation, whether we work in our own businesses or whether we are just working for someone else, and we have to have somebody to cover us and everything, and then we just so intentional about doing everything to make sure everything is going to work good for us, right? Until we get back. And so why not live your life like that every day and not wait until those times come on vacation or even the sickness come up to where you have to be forced to do things that you should be doing intentional every day. And so with that being said, those are some of the takeaways that you're going to get as far as planning, learning how the money works, the buying process, the mortgage process, and also we allow questions as well. And so I'm going to start out with the real estate part of it. That's the easiest part, because everybody wants to be a homeowner. And so to everyone that's in here, thank you for coming today, because it's showing that you are willing to invest in your future. If you have kids, you're able to invest in their future through real estate as well, especially if you have children and you need to pay for college tuition. Real estate is another tool of being able to do that. And so one thing that I want to tell everyone is that the market is going great right now. Interest rates are at an all-time low, even though you're looking at the news and they're not really telling you and giving you information that 5, 6s as far as interest rates, that's all-time low. You know, everybody got used to seeing the 2s and 3s, and that was to stimulate the economy, because we had never been there, and so they needed to get us spending money. They gave out stimulus checks, and so a lot of people was just collecting those checks and putting them in the bank. Then you had those who was just taking those checks and just spending it. And so part of what you're going to learn today as well, outside of the real estate, is what you should have been doing with those stimulus checks in order to be able to purchase your real estate as well. We are in the seller's market as well. The sellers are getting pretty good money for what they're asking for these properties. And so just keep in mind, however, it begins with mortgage process. You need to get pre-approved. You need to talk to a mortgage lender. Next process, you need to call James Davis Realty Group, because we're able to help you to achieve your goal of being a homeowner. We're able to sit down with you, do one-on-one consultations with you, and let you know how the buying process goes. Also, taking you through the process as far as how money is going to be involved in the monies that you are going to need to have in order to purchase a home. And so when I say the monies that you're going to need, and you can write this down, and these are some terms that you will hear us talk about. Due diligence fee. Due diligence fee is a fee that you actually pay sellers to take the house off the market, so no one else can go and see it. No one else can bring all the heavy yours once your offer is accepted. There's no terms of how much money that is. Now, in the last 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, we've been seeing due diligence fees. They was high. I had seen it as high as $50,000. I've seen it as low as $500. And so, if anyone tell you that there is a set fee, there isn't a set fee for due diligence fee, and there's no rules and laws that say you have to offer it. However, in the market that we're in today, you will have to offer it, showing that you are dealing in good faith, and you have some skin in the game, having some money in the game as well. And also, when you pay that money up front, that money is going to be a credit to you at the end of the deal. It will be a credit to you at the end of the deal because you paid money up front, and it will be a debit to the seller because they received that money. That money is also a non-refundable fee. It's a non-refundable fee. And so just keeping that in mind, when we're negotiating on your behalf, and we could start the process of going out and looking at their homes, and you decide that you want to put an offer in on that property, believe me, we will most definitely advise you to the best of our abilities to put you in a position to win. We also have a second fee that's called an earnest money deposit. Earnest money deposit. Earnest money deposit is another fee that's showing that you're dealing in good faith as well. I call it good faith money, and that particular fee is refundable. Unlike the due diligence fee, the due diligence fee is non-refundable. Earnest money deposit is refundable, and it's refundable up until a certain point. And that point is going to be your due diligence period. And so, using today as an example, if we was writing an offer for you today, being September the 24th, we will write down your closing date as being October the 24th. And as an example, we would ask the sellers to take their house off the market up to 21 days, so we would have them to take their house off the market until October the 17th. So today, September the 24th through October the 17th, we ask the seller to take their house off the market. And when we do that, the sellers say, well, if you want me to take my house off the market, you need to pay me a fee. Well, that's where that due diligence fee comes in that I spoke of a few minutes ago. Now, the earnest money deposit is refundable up until a certain point, and that certain point is your due diligence period. So if we're asking the seller to take the house off the market today, September the 24th through October the 17th, that's our due diligence period. And so what happens during that period is the time for you to finish the loan process with your mortgage lender. Because they're going to, as soon as you get under contract, we're going to send it to Dennis. Dennis is going to say, okay, we need to really clamp down on this and let's get moving, because he's going to require and ask for information as far as check stubs. He's going to ask for bank account information. And so time is going to be of the essence, because our due diligence period is going to be from September 24th to October the 17th. And so not only that, we have to do inspections. We get you under contract today, we will most definitely have your inspection scheduled within the next 2 days. We will have your inspection scheduled because time is of the essence, and we would need to be able to have a home inspected for you. We are a one-stop shop. We'll give you 3 different home inspectors to choose from. We'll get all of that scheduled for myself and my team. And not only that, during that period, when you go and have your home inspections done, we will sit down, review your home inspection reports with you. And not only that, we would then write up what we call a due diligence request. That's a request for the seller to do repairs. Now, this is a key point. Key point here is that we live in a caveat emptor state. caveat interstate, meaning buyer beware. All the homes in the state of North Carolina are sold as is. All homes in North Carolina are sold as is. And so what that means to you, that the seller has the right not to do any repairs whatsoever. However, you have the right not to finish the deal if you choose not to. The earnest money deposit is refundable before 5 p.m. on October the 17th. Before our due diligence period ends. It would end at 5 p.m. on whatever our due diligence period date is, and that's October the 17th. Now, to pull out of a deal, you would get your earnest money back. However, that due diligence fee is non-refundable. That fee is due within 24 hours of getting under contract as well. So just keep that in mind. And so when we are looking at the homes, because there are no perfect homes out here. I don't care if you're having a home built or you're buying a resale home. A resale is a property that's been lived in. And inspectors, they will find something wrong with the home, so don't be alarmed. They will find something wrong. If they go out and inspect the home that you're purchasing and they come back with a clean report, something's wrong. Something is wrong. So I just want to make that point clear that during that due diligence period, for us to be able to have your inspections done, for you to do your due diligence with the mortgage person. And just keep in mind, once we get past the due diligence period and we go through the inspection and we negotiate on some repairs, because some sellers will do some repairs, however, they're not doing all repairs in some cases. Some cases they are given what we call concessions. And what concessions are an amount that you and the sellers agree upon that will possibly go toward your closing costs. And Dennis will discuss closing costs with you later. But however, it's very important for us all to be in tune with each other. It's important for us to be one-on-one so that we have clear communication. And just remember, communications is the key. We build relationships. And by building relationships, we have to do it through communicating. And so that's very important. Also, once we get past the due diligence period, we've negotiated on repairs, and everything is just smooth sailing from there. However, there's one other thing that's going to come into play, an appraisal. An appraisal. Once we get you under contract, Dennis most definitely is going to ask you for money for an appraisal. That's an out-of-pocket fee. Your home inspection is an out-of-pocket fee as well. And what an appraisal is an opinion of value. An opinion of value. Say for instance, you're under contract for, we're just going to throw this number out here. You're under contract for $200,000. And so the bank wants to know that that property is worth $200,000 because the bank is only going to loan you the least amount of money. And so they're going to hire a company on your behalf to go out and appraise this property. And what they're going to do, they're going to look at the condition and check the condition of the property. They're going to look at homes in and around the neighborhood to form an opinion of value. And then they're going to report back to the bank. If you're under contract for $200,000 and the bank want to make sure that it's worth $200,000, and an appraiser comes back and say, hey, the property is only worth $195,000. Well, what happens then is that the bank is only going to loan you the $195,000. It's up to us to go to the seller and ask the seller to make up the difference, to lower the price to the fair market value. However, some sellers are saying, well, I'm not going to lower my price. We need that buyer to come up with the difference. And so those are some scenarios that can come up. However, with a great negotiator like myself, we'll be able to work it out for you. And most 9 times out of 10, I do this at the front end of the negotiations before they even accept the offer. And so, with that being said, We will get you through the process, and we will make sure that you are taken care of every step of the way. We're going to make sure that your needs are taken care of. We're going to make sure that we're advocating on your behalf. We're going to make sure that you and your family is going to enjoy the property that you get ready to move into. And so therefore, we most definitely want you to know, at the end of the day, some people get stressed. And it's not a stressful process. It's just one of those processes where you say, James, I'm just not sure of what I should be doing. I'm just not sure if this is the right thing, if this is for me. And I always say, when you signed that lease to rent, did you think about it? Was it an insecurity that you had about paying money to someone you're not getting a return on your investment? And so I always say you're investing in yourself. And it's not like for those who have had kids and you had that first child and never had a child before. And you found out you were going to be a parent and you say, hey, what have I got myself into? And so it's the same thing. You're going to have those same jittery feelings. However, once that child was born and you went through the process, because it is a process that you have to go through, and the more you was around the child each day, the more that you both was learning into this world, it became easier. And then you had a second child, then you knew exactly what to expect. And so why I mentioned the second one, because when you purchase this first house, we want you to purchase another. Because we want you to be able to invest in real estate. Not only that, if you have kids, you'll be able to use these properties to be able to fund college tuitions. So I will open it up for questions for 5 minutes, and then we're going to bring Dennis on. Yes, sir.
I have like 3 different questions to ask.
Yes.
The first question is the process which you explained so far. How does it connect with new home? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first question is the process which you explained so far.
Yes.
How does it connect with a new house?
To new house.
New house. Yeah.
Okay, so new construction is the same. New construction is a little different from the resale. It's the same process. However, when it comes down to doing any repairs, most of your builders are going to give you structural warranties that you're going to have, and also you're going to have appliance warranties as well. And so anything that's new is always going to be better than something old with the same concept. So it's going to be the same process.
Yeah. Now the second question is there a particular amount of money expected to be paid for the due diligence fee? Maybe I shouldn't use the word particular. Maybe I should use the word fixed.
Fixed.
Yeah.
And you saying
that is maybe there's a fixed amount of money expected to be paid for the due diligence fee.
no, there's not a fixed amount. And so what we normally do when you submit offers, it all depends on if we're into a multiple offer situation or not. Also, with the property that you're going to be purchasing, we look and see exactly what those homes are selling for in and around the neighborhood. So when we advise you on what range of what you should be offering, then we also advising you a range of what to offer with your due diligence fee. And normally when we get this established up front as well. Once you get qualified with this and you come in and you sit down with us and we go through your consultation, then we will ask a series of questions just to find out and see exactly where your buying power is, and then we're able to advise you on how to proceed once we submit an offer.
Okay, that makes sense. So the third question is, if the deal actually deal with the buying the house, if it actually went through, would the money being paid for the due diligence be added to the final payment?
It's going to be subtracted. It's going to be a credit to you because you paid a portion of that purchase price up front, and so at the end of the deal, it's a credit to you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so you're not giving away due diligence fee or earnest money deposit, and it's not free money to those sellers. Let me clear one thing. The earnest money deposit is going to be, when we have that check made out, it's going to be made out into a closing attorney's name, who's going to keep it in an escrow for you and apply it at the end. And however, the due diligence fee is a check that's going to be made directly to the seller. Now, they will take that check and do whatever they want to do. However, we're going to have what we call a closing disclosure. And a closing disclosure is a document with the numbers that you will sign off on at the end of the deal. And it's going to have itemized numbers that the mortgage lender would like to see. And part of that is going to be the money that you paid up front as well, and it will be a credit to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Great question. Yes.
Is it common for a homeowner to request that an inspection be waived?
Is it common to have a home inspection waived by whom?
By the seller.
Seller? No, the seller can, no. Part of the question is it customary for the seller to ask that the home inspection be waived? No. Part of the offer to purchase that we submit to the seller when we are offering to purchase that property, it stipulates in there that they must make the property available for you to be able to do inspections. Okay.
Got a two-part question.
Okay.
One question is, what scenario is it that the buyer gets through the process of purchasing the house? Because it's instances when the buyer actually gets money back.
Well, that's a great question, and that's a dentist question. I stay in my lane when it comes to talking about the finance part, and I stay in my lane when it comes to an attorney's part. I help you to negotiate and be able to purchase the home. Dentist will be able to address that question for you as to when buyers can get money back at the end of the deal as well.
And this may be a dentist question too, but is it better for the individual to go and get pre-qualified so they can know their buying power before they come to you?
Well, all of my clients that we work with, we most definitely have them talk to our mortgage partners before we even sit down with them. You don't want to get out there and start looking at homes and not knowing exactly what you can afford, because, like you said, the buying power. If you go out, it's like going on the car lot. It doesn't make sense to go on the car lot to look for to purchase a car without even knowing what you can afford, because what happens, they run your credit to 10, 12, 15 people just to find out who's going to be a taker, and then you end up with a higher interest rate that you really don't need to have. However, if you go and talk to a financial institution and know exactly what you can afford before you go looking, then your buying power is stronger. And so yes, to answer your question, it's always in the best interest to talk to a mortgage person. You can come to James Davis Realty Group. We'll most definitely have you to talk to some of our partners as well and get you qualified. Always, always. Don't go out there, don't set yourself up to fail. We don't believe in setting you up to fail, because if you go out and looking at a $250,000 house, or either you're looking at a $100,000 home, the most important thing to know is that you set yourself up to fail because you don't know exactly where your leverage is, where your buying power is. And so it's good to know where your buying power is before you go out and search. All right, well, I'm going to bring Dennis up, but I just want to say thank you again for allowing me to talk to you today. Thank you for coming in. And James Davis Realty Group is here to help you. We was able to help over 42 families last year. And this year we are on a good track of helping a lot of other families to buy homes, sell houses, and invest in real estate. And Dennis Fields with Guaranteed Rate.
All right, thank you, James. Good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Dennis Fields, and I'm with Guaranteed Rate. I'm Vice President of Works Lending over there. And we have a ton of information that we want to get through. I have a lot of slides that I'm going to go over with you guys. Some of the slides we're going to highlight. Some of the slides we're going to take a deep dive on. But all of this information is geared toward helping you to win with real estate when you go out and become homeowners, whether we're talking about buying a primary property, whether we're talking about a second home or an investment property. We want you to win with real estate. And so one of the reasons why real estate is so important, especially in our society, is because there are some definite benefits to being a homeowner, some definite positive impacts of homeownership. Some of those include creating generational wealth for you and your family, positive outcomes for children, a lot of studies on that, and also stabilization of families. All of these are positive impacts that are created by homeownership. And so one of our goals with this seminar today, but also this series that we're doing, is to help you guys go out and buy with confidence. Because we want you to be well informed, have a ton of information, be knowledgeable, because as we've all heard, knowledge is power, and that's a true statement. If you have knowledge about this process, then as to James' point earlier, that's going to make you feel more comfortable, going through the process, because you'll know, what steps are coming up next. And so for today's agenda, I'm going to talk a little bit about my company, myself. We're going to go over interest rates, current environment, are we in a housing bubble, the mortgage process, finding funds to buy a home. And as we go through this process, we're also going to dispel some myths that are floating around, currently in the media, and also clear up some things that are out there that are just a little confusing. So first, who am I? And why should you listen to the information that I'm providing to you guys today? Well, I started in the mortgage industry in 1996. I was on the servicing side, flipped over to originations in 2000, so a ton of experience. I've originated thousands of home loans throughout my career. Also, when it comes to things like down payment assistance, working with North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, ranking the top 2% in the state out of, I think there's a little bit over 1,300 originators that feed into the program. And as far as ratings on Google, Zillow, Facebook, I have 5 stars across the board. So a little bit about me. I am a family man. This is me, my 2 boys. Yes, that is a onesie. I own it. I claim it. But yeah, so it's a family of 5. So it's me, my boys, my wife, and I also take care of my mom. And this is where I started out. This is an apartment building. I grew up in a town called Hempstead, New York. And I grew up in apartment buildings, for the beginning of my life. Until I became a homeowner, I didn't understand the value of homeownership. And so, I did things that we're taught to do, get a good education, go to college, graduate, did all those things, got out of college. First thing I did, I didn't get me a regular apartment. I got me a nice apartment. The first thing I should have did was get a home. If I would have been more educated, if I would have spoken to someone like Thomas early on in life, I would have been a homeowner during that time. But when I did change what I was doing, and I became a homeowner, it really had some positive impacts on my life. Because the very first property that I got, I got it for a really good deal, $99,000. A few years later, I was able to refinance it, post the cash out, maintain a low interest rate on it, and with that money, I paid off my student loans, paid off my car, paid off a wedding, and so it really had a big impact, financially for me, starting off, with becoming a family man. So a little bit about my company, guaranteed rate. We have great customer satisfaction ratings. We're actually the number 2 retail lender in America. Last year we did a little more than $100 million in originations. And all we do is retail. And what that is just face-to-face, our company with clients originating mortgage loans. So contrary to popular belief, and Tracy Morgan and his commercials, we actually created the first digital mortgage. And so what that is a process where I ask everybody to go online to do their application because it's the most efficient way. Because some of these systems in the background will take hold, and so if you upload certain information and we can verify employment digitally, we can actually get an automated underwritten approval within 20 minutes. And so that's huge, especially in a market like we have right now where speed kills, and there are situations where I get a call on a Saturday, I may be out with my boys, hey, you want to go see a house, in the next couple hours, I'll direct them to my site to do the application, tell them to opt into everything, because then, with our technology, just from my phone, I can take a look at it, see we got the approval, and send out an approval letter so that, you guys can go out and, put an offer in that property. We have over 500,000 happy customers, as you can see, from as compared to some of our competitors. When it comes to complaints, we are definitely on the low end compared to some of the names that you see on the board here. All right, so let's talk about the current market because there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so where I want to start off with are interest rates. So what you see on the board here are interest rates as of the 22nd. And as you can see, for a performing loan, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, basically it's an original loan, bank loan. Current rate is at about 6.4%. And if you can see this, in the last 30 days, it went from about 5.7 to this 6.4. So we're currently in an uptick when it comes to rates. They are going up. Now, contrary to popular belief, the Fed just increased the Fed funds rate this week. That has an indirect impact on mortgage rates. The real impact on mortgage rates is inflation. And so as inflation has increased, mortgage rates have increased because inflation is going to erode the return that someone who buys a mortgage bond receives because, they're getting the same return over the period of that bond, but their buying power is being eroded. So to make up for that, to entice people to buy these mortgage bonds, interest rates have to go up. It's because of inflation. So how many think that, by a show of hands, do you think that 6.4% is at a high rate? You think that's a high rate? All right, so usually when I get that, when I hear that, my response is as compared to what? And so is what we've experienced over the last couple of years. James brought this up. The reason why rates went so low was due to government intervention. They were trying to stimulate the economy through COVID, stimulate the economy after the Great Recession, and so a lot of money was flowing into these mortgage bonds to drive these interest rates low. I'm going to show you a chart here. So what this chart represents are the average mortgage rates since 1974. And as you can see, there was a big period where we were in double digits. So between 79 to 1990, we had double-digit mortgage rates. It wasn't until 2010 that we actually got below 5% for the average mortgage rate over a year. So 2010. So what's about that date? Well, that was during the Great Recession. And so that's when the government started, infusing money into the economy to try to stimulate it. And so I believe at that time, in 2010, they pumped in about 1.6, 1.7 trillion in bonds, and that's when we started to see these rates go down. Well, what's happening now is that they're starting to get out of that. So they stopped doing those investments. They did kick it back in during COVID, but now that's ended. And so now, what we're saying is let the market forces take hold again. So a lot of the reinvestment of the money that they were getting from that, they were putting back into the system, and now they're easing their way out. And so now we're seeing the market take hold again. So the most prevalent rate on this sheet is somewhere in the 6s. So where we are today is average. So it's not high, it's not low. It's average, because since '74, most of these years, the rate that shows up the most is somewhere in the 6s. And on average, rates have floated. If you take out that 10, 11 year period, have floated between the 5s and the 9s. And so we're still in a good spot. To James's point, we're still in a good spot when it comes to mortgage rates, historically. Now, another thing that's floating around in the media is, are we in a housing bubble? That's the fear right now, because people do after the Great Recession. They remember how housing prices collapsed. So let's talk about that. Everything with housing is supply and demand. You have to look at it from that standpoint, supply and demand. So let's take a look back at what happened during the Great Recession. Well, we had declining, house formations. We had declining birth rates. I'm going to show that through some of the slides. But at the same time, we had an oversupply of homes. So during that time, we had about 1.6, 1.7 million foreclosures. Today, we have about 160, 170,000. So there's a big difference between supply, from then as to the supply that we have today. What this chart represents is the household growth. These are household formations. And so as you can see, during 2006, 2007, 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way until we got to 2014, we had pretty much a decline in housing formation. So what a housing formation is you have a household, you have a family, you have a husband and a wife. Let's say a husband and wife, if they unfortunately divorce, well, that's going to create a new household, because somebody is departing the current home and going to another home. You have children, they grow up, they go to school, they come home, they get jobs, they move out. That's creating another household. And so as you can see, right about 2007, it started to increase. And so what caused that increase? Birth rates. And so to understand what happened in the past, to understand what's happening now, you have to do a look back. So the average year of the first-time homeowner is 33 years old. So to determine where you are today as far as the number of people who are of home buying age, you have to look back 33 years to see what the birth rates were then. Because right now, birth rates are declining, so people are thinking, the population, we're in a population decline. Well, that won't hit until 33 years from now. And so that's how you have to look at it. And so when we take a look back at 2006, looking back at about 1973, I believe, birth rates were declining. And this is all during the Great Recession time, during a time where property values, were decreasing. Now, we all know about the baby boomers, the great generation. Well, we're entering some years that rival the baby boomer years as far as people coming into home buying age. This is our supply. This is our demand. This is our demand right here. So as you can see, demand is going to be on the rise for homeownership. Statistically speaking, I think in America about 66% of the population are homeowners. So imagine all these people who want to be homeowners. They're going out looking for homes. Well, unless we have the supply to cover that, we're going to be in what we are right now, and that's known as a seller's market. So today, as we just talked about, birth rates are going up. And so that's why we're in this seller's market that we're in. All right, so another reason why we're in the seller's market. So we talked about housing formations, right? And so if we just look at housing formations, these are new people coming into to buying these. We're not even talking about everybody who is currently a homeowner who may want to sell or buy a new home. We're not even talking about those people. We're just talking about the new people coming in. Well, this is the housing start, so that's new construction. So there's about 1.7 million housing starts. But what also happens every year is that homes become outdated, and so they need to be destroyed. So do that. We subtract out about 100,000 homes. So the new supply is 1,600. Or excuse me, about 1.6 million homes that are out there. When we look at housing demand, there's about 1.4 million household formations. And so you would think that we have a surplus of houses, but in actuality we don't, because we have to look at it the way the process actually works. Just because a house starts doesn't mean that it's ready for somebody to move into. They still have to build it. And so there are actually about 1.3 million houses that are ready for somebody to move into and to own. Now we still have to back out that 100,000 that we're losing, so actually we're in a little bit of a deficit, when it comes to that. So that is leading into that supply and demand conversation that that we were talking about, and what's causing the housing prices to continue to appreciate. So what this chart represents is from the St. Louis Fed. It represents all of the active listings in America. This is through last month, through August of 2022. So we had a little less than $800,000 houses that were actively listed through that period. And so we're in deficit. And so as long as we're in that deficit, we're going to continue to see houses appreciate positively. Now, what we just went through, where we had a year where houses were appreciating 20, 30%, that has slowed down a little bit. And so when you see in the media where they talk about people are cutting their prices, that is not the full story. What's actually happening is that housing prices are decelerating, or appreciation is decelerating. So we're still moving in a positive direction. And so instead of appreciating at 20%, we're getting back to normal. And so right now we're around 4 to 5%, as far as appreciation, which is still awesome when you think about it. And we're gonna, I'm gonna show some charts to show what that 4 to 5% represents year over year. What this chart is right here is the average rent in Greensboro, where we are today. This is for a small apartment, maybe one bedroom. It's about $1,200. And so what I always tell people is that you have to live somewhere. So you're going to pay somebody's mortgage, whether it's your own or your landlord's. You're paying a mortgage. And so this is the average rent. So rents are actually right now outpacing mortgage appreciation. And so I know last year it went up about 20%. Year to date, I think rents are up about 13%. I get a lot of calls from people, that say, hey, I need to, to find a house. I just got to call my landlord. My lease is expiring. They're telling me the rent's going up, $300, $400, $500, and that is crazy because they understand the market too. They understand that people have to live somewhere, and they understand that it's a seller's market. We're in a housing shortage, so these renters, they're taking advantage of it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about renting versus owning. So we saw the average rent for that one bedroom. What if you're looking to buy like a $300,000 house? So that's probably going to represent 3, 4 bedroom, 2, 3 bath house. And so if you're looking to buy that in today's market, using today's rate, you're probably looking at a monthly payment, with the taxes, the insurance, the mortgage insurance. And I also, tell people, be prepared because you're a homeowner now, so you don't have a landlord to call, so you have to make sure you have a little bit of money, squirreled away, for when you have to get something fixed. And so on a monthly basis, we're looking at about $25.17. To rent a similar house in the first year is going to be about $23.64. But remember, if you're doing leases year over year, that's going to go up. I'm only using a 6% increase in rents because they're not going to keep going up at 13-20% a year. So I'm going to use a lower amount than that. But as you can see, over a 5-year period of time, your mortgage payment, this P9 right here, that's never going to change. The only thing that may change is taxes and insurance, but that mortgage payment is never going to change. If your rents go up on average to 6% per year, after year 5, you're going to be paying close to $3,000 for this same type of house. And you have to take a look at the opportunity cost as well, because whenever you make a mortgage payment, what you're doing is you're putting some money away. I call it the equity bank. It's almost like you're being forced to save, because every time you make a payment, a little bit comes off of that principal balance, and that's money in the future that you can tap into. And so, what else is going to happen when you own a home is that, like we talked about, there's going to be some appreciation gains. And so, in this example, I'm using about 4.6% appreciation. And so, over time, that property is going to become worth a little bit more. And as we saw from the previous chart of birth rates, it's going to appreciate for a good while before we're going to see any negative impact in supply, in demand. And so when you look at all of this together, between the difference that you're going to be paying between the mortgage and the rent over that 5-year period of time, your appreciation gains and your amortization gains, which is that when you're paying a little bit against the principal balance every year, even if you go to sell a house and you have to pay the commissions on that sale, you're going to walk away with $75,000. $75,000 to the good. This is the power of homeownership versus renting. Because homeownership is an investment, renting is an expense. What I also talk to my clients about is the cost of waiting, because there is a cost of waiting, an opportunity cost. Now, I never, try to apply pressure to any of my clients, but I do want them to be informed. Again, we want you to buy with confidence. We want you to have this information. We want you to be informed. And I follow the advice of Ken Chenault. He was a CEO of American Express, and what he used to talk about at American Express was that leaders, they define reality and then they give hope. And so this is the reality. If you decide to wait, the market's not going to wait for you. The market's not going to wait with you. The market's going to keep moving. And so, that $300,000 house today, with about 4.6 appreciation in 6 months, it's going to be about 304. In a year, it's going to be about 314. 2 years from now, 325. 3 years from now, about 337. So unless your income is keeping pace with that, then your buying power is being eroded. And so let's say if you decide just to wait, 1 year, well, if you're pre-approved for $300,000, the houses that you're going to look at a year from now are houses that are about $280,000 today. And so keep that in mind. So I advise everybody, take as much time as you need, because we want you to be comfortable and we want you to have a good experience as you go through the process, but understand the economics of it. All right, so when it comes to the actual buying process, where does it start? It starts with you guys. There are a couple of things that you have to prepare yourselves for up front. And some of those things are knowing your numbers, right? So what are your numbers? So what's your budget? You have to determine, how much do you want to pay on a monthly basis comfortably. You have to have an idea of where your credit score is. And so a couple of places where you can, get that information. You can get it from me for free as a lender when we pull credit. There's no cost to you unless you actually complete the process. Then at the end of the process, then you'll get charged for that credit report. But if you never complete that process, there's no charge to it. At least not with my company. And so we'll give that to you for free. Or you can pay for it yourselves. One of the places that I counsel people on going is myfico.com because if you're looking at the scores on like a Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, those are more like consumer scores. They're not your true FICO scores. So you want to go to the source, the company that does all the analytics for all of the bureaus. That's the Fair Isaac Credit Company. They have a website. It's called MyFICO. It'll give you all the scores and all the industries. Because what a lot of people don't realize is there isn't one credit score. Each industry assesses risk a little bit differently. So each industry is going to have a different credit score. So the mortgage industry, we assess risk one way. We're going to have our own score model. The auto industry assesses risk a little bit differently. They have their own score model. Same as with credit cards. And so when you go to MyFICO, they give you all of those scores. Or you can get it from me by doing the application. Now, you have to determine where you want to buy. That's a big thing that you have to determine. And you don't have to, get it down to like one particular zip code or anything like that, or one particular city, but have an idea, maybe, 2 to 3 cities that you may consider living in, because that will determine your down payment assistance opportunities. Because some areas have their own local programs, others don't, and so that's where that comes into play. And then the last thing, putting your team together, and this is probably the most important thing. So a lot of people think, when you go through this process that other people are leading you through it. No, other people are advising you through it. You are the boss. You guys are the ones that are in charge. We're your advisors. We're going to let you know that if you're thinking one way and that's not realistic, with our current market, we're going to let you know that. But we're not leading, we're advising. And so when you put your team together, you want to make sure that you put a team together that's strong in the areas where you want to succeed. So if you're going to need down payment assistance, when you're interviewing James, when you're interviewing myself, you want to ask those questions. Hey, are you familiar with the down payment assistance programs in the state, the federal programs, locally? Because if you end up with someone who doesn't know that, and that's where you want to go, you can run into some trouble when you get down the line. I get a lot of calls and do a lot of second opinions where somebody went to an originator online and they're telling me, yeah, you can get this, that, and the other. And then the key is when they tell you you need to call them and do all the paperwork and all of that stuff. When they tell you that, that means that they don't understand the program. They're just trying to get you to go with their company. Because with me and my team, we're going to help you throughout that entire process. We're going to send you the paperwork, so we're not going to send you on a fishing expedition. So you got to put your team together. So some terms to know. Debt to income ratio. It's abbreviated for DTI. So basically that's the percentage of a person's monthly gross income that goes toward a debt. Loan to value, we call it LTV. It's a ratio that measures and compares the amount of your mortgage with the appraised value of the property. Mortgage insurance. It's an insurance policy that compensates lenders or investors in the case of loss. And so mortgage insurance does not protect you, it protects the lenders. But the reason why mortgage insurance is so important is because it enables us to lend more money to more people. The appraisal, as James indicated before, is an unbiased professional opinion of that property's value. Home inspection is different from the property appraisal. So the home inspection, the home inspector is going to go out to the property. They're going to be out there for a couple hours. They're going to look on top, underneath, throughout, and they're going to assess the condition of the property. Whereas, as we talked about before, that appraisal is looking at the property's value. Interest rate. So the interest rate is the percentage charge on the principal amount of the loan. The APR, a lot of people confuse that with the interest rate. What the APR does, it represents the price you pay to borrow that money. And so when comparing loan offers, you want to look at that APR, because if you're out shopping by rate, then that's the wrong way to shop for a mortgage loan. Because if you get on the phone with some mortgage professionals and say, hey, I want a really low rate, they're going to get you a really low rate. But the question is, what is it going to cost you to get that low rate? So that's why you want to compare that APR. A W-2 employee is one who receives a regular paycheck and employee benefits. And so that's different from a 1099 employee. So you may work for a company and you may get paid as a 1099 employee. So basically, as a 1099 employee, you can simply be self-employed because you have to pay your own taxes on that money. And so there's a difference between these two. We do not treat these the same. Even though you may work for a company, these are treated differently. Because on one hand, for a W-2 employee, I can use their gross income. So if you make $80,000 a year, I can use $80,000 a year before anything comes out of that money, any taxes or anything. I can use that in my numbers. However, if you're 1099, if you're self-employed, I have to use what you show as the net amount after you back out all of that, all your expenses on your tax return. So keep that in mind. All right, so these are some that we're going to go through pretty quickly. These are the different loan types. So this is a conventional loan. Conventional loans are credit score driven. So basically what that means is that the higher credit score you have, the lower rate you're going to get. With a conventional loan, if you're a first-time home buyer, your down payment can be as low as 3%. Also, with a conventional loan, they're what I call student loan friendly. So with Fannie Mae, if you're on an income-based repayment plan and your assigned payment is $0 per month, then we will use that in our numbers. With other programs, we have to use a calculation, like if your student loans are deferred, we have to use anywhere from 0.5% to a full percent. Calculation is a little bit different with VA, and it's to their favor, but in general, that's what we're looking at. And then with a conventional loan, your debt to income ratio cannot exceed 50%. FHA loan, awesome loan. It's a little bit more forgiving. The qualifying criteria is a little bit more lenient. When it comes to the debt to income ratio, we can go really close to 57%. Also with FHA loan, in order to get automated approval, credit score has to be at a minimum 580. You can also get a FHA loan if you don't have any credit scores. And when it comes to the down payment, for FHA, it doesn't matter if you're a first-time home buyer or a repeat home buyer, it's going to be 3.5%. Whereas with conventional, if you're buying your second home, you have to put down at least 5%. VA loan, the best loan program that's available in my opinion, because no down payment requirement, no mortgage insurance requirement. I've done VA loans with debt to income ratios in the low 60s, but it's only available to people who are active military or veterans. Any veterans in? And then last one is the USDA loan. So I like to jokingly say USDA loan is like if the VA loan and the FHA loan had a baby, it would be a USDA loan. Because it actually combines the benefits of both. So there's no down payment requirement. However, there are restriction locations to USDA loans. Has to be in a more rural type area. Also with USDA loan, technically there's no score requirement. However, most lenders will not go below 620. And then the one thing about VAs that USDA is that they're really strict when it comes to their ratios, and so they do not allow people to go over 41%. And then they also have this front-end ratio. What that is just the housing debt by itself, so your mortgage payment, your taxes, your insurance, HOA if you have one. They're looking at that number too, and that number can't exceed 29. It actually can exceed that, but you have to have high credit scores to get on maybe. All right, so where can you find some funds in order to purchase a home? There are a number of different ways. So you can get gift funds from a family member or close friend if that's available to you. You can borrow some money from your 401k. And when you do borrow money from your 401k, we do not count that payment against your debt to income ratio. In today's world, you can crowdfund it. In certain rate environments, you can take a higher rate than what you qualify for. That creates some money on the back end, what we call a yield spread, that you can use to pay for some of your costs. If you get your VA loan, the VA will actually allow those costs to be financed, whereas other programs don't. And there's down payment assistance. And so these are all of the down payment assistance programs in the local market that I participate in. There's Genoa Fund, where you can get a soft second or repayable second up to 5% of the purchase price. There's no Carolina Housing Finance Agency. Again, they have soft seconds and repayable seconds. Most popular program is the NC First Advantage program. We call it the AK program, where you get $8,000 in assistance funds. There's the NC Home Advantage program, where you can get up to 5% of the loan amount in assistance funds. Both of those are soft second programs, which means that that money is going to be forgivable over a certain period of time. And then there's the Community Partners Loan Pool called CPLP, where you can get the lesser of 20% of the purchase price or $40,000 in assistance funds. And this is the way the program works is that there's no interest rate associated with it. There's no payment that's required on that money until you've completely paid off your first mortgage. So if you buy your dream home, you use this money, you don't have to make any payments on this until 30 years down the line, until after you pay off that first mortgage. And when you do pay off the first, what they'll ask you to do is whatever mortgage payment you were making to them, they're going to ask you to start making to the CPLP loan, and typically that pays off in about 3.5 years. Greensboro, this is what we were talking about earlier, where the home buying process starts with you knowing where you want to live. Well, Greensboro has a program where in most cases you can get $10,000, and then there are some cases where you get $15,000 in assistance money. City of High Point has programs that go up to $10,000 in assistance money. Guilford County now has a program, where you can get up to $10,000. And then Winston-Salem has a program that's similar to CPLP, where you get 20% of the purchase price or up to about $15,000 in assistance money to help with the purchase of the home. All right, so I'm going to go through this real quick because these are the steps to buying a home. If you follow these steps, you'll have a smooth closing process. I guarantee you. So the first step is getting pre-approved. So what's involved in that? It involves completing an application, providing some documentation. So generally speaking, the last couple of months of your pay stubs, last couple of months of your bank statements, last couple of years of your tax returns, and then contact information, for like your HR provider, previous employers, things like that. This is the first step in the process, like James said. He wants to get this pre-approval before he starts working with you because he wants to know what your budget is. He doesn't want to show you, $500,000 houses if you're qualified for $400,000. That's a waste of your time, it's a waste of his time. Second step is to shop for your new homes and actually have that pre-approval letter. And you sent in all of that documentation, it's been vetted, you're good to go. Now it's time for you to shop for a home. That's when you come back to James, and he'll work his magic. He'll find you, that home that's perfect for you. And okay, so I want to take a step back because this is important. So this is what my pre-approval letter looks like. And whenever you get a pre-approval letter, what I tell everybody is look for certain things on that letter. The one thing that you definitely want to see is that the loan has been ran through the automated underwriting system. The reason that's important is because sometimes your numbers may look good on paper, but what the automated underwriting system is every limit we run our loans through this system goes directly to the agency. So Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Ginnie Mae, these are the guys that are backing this money, and so they will give us an approval, or they'll give us a referral or a denial. And so it's important that it gets ran through the system because if somebody's just eyeballing and say, oh yeah, these guys look good, and then you get under contract and then they run it, they may find out that there's something in the algorithm that doesn't like the loan, something in your past history that doesn't like the loan, and that can cause problems, especially if you were trying to do a conventional loan. Because for the most part, with conventional loans, you have to have automated underwriting approval, especially if you're trying to use down payment assistance, because some programs will only take automated underwriting approval. I've had cases where I've had people with 700 credit scores and like low debt to income ratios, and for whatever reason there was something that it was saying, whether it was skinny credit or whatever, the system just didn't like it. So you want to make sure that it gets ran through automated underwriting system when you get that. And on your pre-approval letter, you should be able to see what your rate is, what your APR is. It shows you what your principal and interest payment is as well. The other thing that you should be getting when you get that pre-approval letter is you should get what I call a total cost worksheet. So this is a breakdown of where every penny in that loan is going. So when I send out a pre-approval letter, I send out both. So you know where the money is going, because this is where, again, like if you're shopping, the only thing you're asking for is a low rate. This is where they can pack fees in to get you to that low rate, and then you have a big, closing costs at the end that you have to pay. All right, so let's get back to the steps of the loan. So you got your pre-approval letter, you went out shopping, you found something, and then now you go with a contract. So this is when things start to pick up and they get real, just like James said earlier. You're gonna get that executed contract and you can send it over to me so I can get the ball rolling. You need to provide all of your deposit monies. So in North Carolina, like James said, we got that due diligence. When you get that contract signed, you got to deliver that due diligence check straight away. And then you want to make sure that that lender, that I have all of the documents. Now, when I send out my pre-approval letter, I'm going to have a list. I'm going to tell you exactly the documents that I need to process the loan. You want to make sure that I have all those documents so that we can get moving straight away. Because any delay up front causes a delay on the back end. And contracts are time sensitive. All right, and so now I got all that information, so what am I going to do with it? I'm going to send it to the underwriter. And the underwriter is going to issue our conditional approval. And so what that is they're going to look over everything that you sent in. They're going to review every document. And so they're going to look at your bank statements. They're going to look to see if there's any reoccurring debts that don't show up on your credit report, because they need to add that back in to your debt to income ratio. They're going to look at the bank statements to see if there are any return checks, because they may ask questions about that. They're going to look at your paycheck stubs to take a look at your deductions, make sure everything looks good. Because in this industry we do have a fair amount of fraud, so they're going to make sure that all that looks good. They're also going to take a look at your deductions. So if there's something that you didn't tell me up front, hey, I'm paying child support, you didn't tell me, then if it shows up in your credit card, your check stub, that's going to impact your debt to income ratio. Now I'm going to look at those things myself up front, but these are the things the underwriters are looking for too. And so when they issue that conditional approval, basically what they're saying is that this loan is approved, provided that we answer these questions that I have, and that we get these other documents. So at this stage, other documents that may still be lingering out there are like your title report from the attorney. The appraisal may not be back in at this point in time. We may have your insurance from your insurance agent yet. So they're going to want to get all of that stuff, and they need all of that so they can issue what we call the clear to close, which is the final approval. So now we get our clear to close. The next step is closing with the attorney. And so what that process looks like is once we get that clear to close, then we're going to send you what's called an initial closing disclosure. And so that is going to be a document that's going to be similar to what you're going to see at the closing table. At this point, there may be things that we don't know about. So if you haven't paid for let's say your home inspection, and that's being paid at closing, we may not know that at this time. So that's why we're sending out the initial with all the things that we do know about. The reason why this is important is because this starts the closing clock. So you have to review it and sign it. And until you review it and sign it, the closing clock doesn't start. So legally, we can't close a loan until after that closing disclosure, until after 3 days after you've seen that document. Also, what's going to happen is there's going to start to be some back and forth between our closing department and the attorney. They're going to start finalizing those numbers. We're going to send them what we have. They're going to look at it and say, hey, we have these other items that need to be placed on there. And then we're going to come to an agreement and get that final number. And then once we have that final number, we'll let you know what it is. We'll find out whether your attorney requires either a certified check or a wire, so that you can be prepared with that at closing. And then the last thing is you go to closing, you sign all the paperwork, you get a little cramp in your hand for signing everything, and you get your keys. So this is the timeline for what I call motivated buyers. And so what a motivated buyer is if we ask you for something, we need to have it back within 24 hours. So if I say, hey, I need to update your paycheck stubs, I need to get that within 24 hours. Hey, I need an updated bank statement because we need to see, that earnest money, that due diligence money coming out of your banking account. I need to get that within 24 hours. So if you're not using any down payment assistance, we're looking at about a 23-day close. I've actually got people CTC in as little as 6 days with a program that we call Fast Track. But generally speaking, 23 calendar days. If we're using just mortgage tax credit, so what that is, it's a tax credit that you get as a first-time home buyer, and you can actually get this money either in your paycheck, or you can submit this on your taxes each year to get it back. If we're doing one of those, then we're still looking at 23 days. If we're looking at doing Chinoa Fund down payment assistance, we're looking at 23 days for that because Guaranteed Rate has delegated underwriting on that program. So we don't have to go to that DPA provider to have them approve it as well. So our underwriters approve everything, so we can get it done in one shot. If we're using North Carolina housing, I said we're looking at about 30 days. They're really good. So if we're just doing the NC Home Advantage program, then basically they're going to take whatever income we calculate and call it good. So that process usually happens pretty quickly. if we're doing the $8,000 program, they're going to have their own underwriter take a look at it. So that can add some time to the calendar because their underwriter may ask for things that we don't care about. And so we have to account for that. If we're looking at local down payment assistance, say City of Greensboro High Point, we're looking at about 33 days because with their process, they have their own underwriting. They don't look at anything until they have everything. And they use a live check at closing, so we have to give some additional time for that check to be cut because that has to be delivered to the attorney. If we're looking at the Winston-Salem program, we're looking at about 40 days because that program is really aligned with CPLP, so they're going to go through really in-depth underwriting on it, and so that takes more time for that. And if we're stacking programs, I would say we're looking at about 40 to 45 days because every time you introduce a new down payment assistance provider, you're introducing another underwriter. One person may ask for this, another person may ask for that, and so we have to account for that. So just be prepared, depending upon what your particular situation is. These are the closing times for a motivated buyer. So I can lend help when it comes to getting a contract approved. So we have power bid approval. So what that is basically I can get you fully underwritten before you go out and find the property. And typically that's going to work with someone who's not using down payment assistance. Because again, if you're using down payment assistance, it has to get looked at by that provider. We have the fast track approval, where basically we're gonna combine a lot of positions together. So we're gonna combine your processor, your underwriter, they're all gonna be combined in one position, and that person's gonna look at it, and then they can give an approval. Provided that again you get all the documentation into them straight away, they can provide that approval. Within a matter of days. This is full clear to close because there is one person that's going to look at everything, but that's only for a certain population. It does not. We do not do these for down payment assistance because again, somebody else is going to have to look at it outside of us. We have this thing called HAWK. It's an appraisal tool, so we can take a look to see like if we're putting 20% or more down, will that property potentially qualify for an appraisal waiver. That just speeds the process up. We don't have to have an appraiser physically go out to the property. I can also, contact the listing agents and back the offer. And then, like James said, there are going to be times where a seller, they won't want to come down on their price. So, I can provide some solutions to cover those appraisal gaps. And then I have some tools, that I can take advantage of to take a look at, if I'm going to ask, if I'm going to go over the asking price, does that make sense for this particular property, considering, its particular rate of appreciation, things like that. All right, some do's and don'ts. Definitely keep me informed about everything. If you're changing jobs, if you get pay increase, pay decrease, changing hours, get impacted by COVID, need to know everything because that could impact your approval. Continue to make all your payments on time. You get something in the mail, somebody says that you owe them money for any reason, it's a $14 medical bill, look into it. Because if it hits your credit report, that could have an impact on our approval. So make sure everything remains paid on time. Maintain your current employment and income. If you are thinking about changing, let me know. Changing jobs is not necessarily a deal killer, but if you're going from being a W-2 employee to a 1099 employee, it could be. So let me know. Hold on to all your important documents, W-2s, tax returns, pay stubs, things like that. Ask questions. Ask as many questions as you need to feel comfortable with the process. and make yourself available throughout the entire process. So don't plan your closing around your vacation, because if we need something, again, we need to get it quickly. And so unless you have access to all your documents digitally, just wait till you get through the process once you're under contract before you decide to go on vacation or anything like that. Some don'ts, basically, they're going to be like the opposites of the do's. And so definitely a don't is don't go shopping before you know what you can afford. Don't quit or change your job. Don't make any major purchases. So when I pull credit, it's good for 120 days. But on the back end, the company has to pull credit through, they're still monitoring things. And so they will see if there are any new inquiries, they will see if any new accounts come up on your credit report. If they do, then we need to address it. And I've had this happen, like day before closing, I had a young lady, a medical collection popped up, and it took her from the score she needed to qualify for the program below it. And so this is where that creative partnership that I said on the previous page comes into play, because I work with a company that purchased a home for her, and she had to wait 6 months to repurchase it back, and we made it happen. Large deposits of cash into your banking account. So they're going to look at this, and so if they see large amounts of cash coming into your bank account, it's considered a red flag, so they're going to ask about it. And if we can't successfully answer where that money came from, they won't allow us to use it. And so typically, if we do looking at an FHA loan, what's considered a large deposit is anything that's greater than 1% of the purchase price of the property. For a conventional loan, it's typically any deposit that's more than 50% of your usable income, monthly income. Again, don't plan on taking a vacation during the process, and please don't do anything that could potentially impact your credit score. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm going to, if I pay these accounts off, it's going to have a good impact on my credit score. Sometimes those things have a negative impact. I've seen with people, trying to do good, they pay off their car, the credit score goes down, because now they have one less active account. And so that one account may have been supporting the rest of the credit. So don't do anything until you discuss it with me. All right, so that's all the information. Any questions? I answered them all?
One question.
Got a question.
Thomas had asked a question earlier as far as in what cases can a buyer get money back at closing?
Okay, so if you are getting a loan through a lender, then typically the only thing you can get back is what you put into it. So if there's money that's going to be remaining at the end, let's say seller's giving closing costs, so you're getting down payment assistance, and in some cases we can give you back the appraisal fee, maybe a home inspection, things like that. So money that you actually put into the transaction. It's different if you're doing a cash deal because the lenders aren't involved. So whatever you guys work out is what you work out. But if you're getting financed, then typically that's what it is. Now, if you are getting down payment assistance, then we have to go by their rules also. And so some providers will allow a certain amount of cash to be given back to the buyer, others don't. And so we got to keep that in mind as well.
I have some questions. For the down payment assistance program, is there a minimum salary or income that you would have to?
Yeah, and so it really depends on the program. And so
What's
if
the
we're talking
question?
about like the
What's the question?
no, so the question is there like a minimum maximum income amount for down payment assistance programs? And so it depends on the program. So some programs will go by 80% of the area median income. Some programs will go up to a certain dollar amount of income. Some programs will look at applicant income. So what that is just the individuals who are on the application, while other programs are going to look at household income. So it just depends on the program that we're trying to work, what that number may be. And so as a lender, what I'll do is I'll take all that into consideration, when I get your application, see the income, I'll usually ask, like if there's just going to be, one person on the loan, I'll usually, and they're married, I'll usually ask what the spouse's income is so that I can, try to keep all of that, in my head when I do my approval.
My other question was, new homes versus a foreclosed home, are the requirements for purchasing a foreclosed home higher as opposed to purchasing a new home?
Okay, so the question is, are the requirements for purchasing a foreclosed home different than that of purchasing a new home? And so when it comes to buying, the process is going to be the same. What's going to change with foreclosed homes is how it's being marketed. And so, with some foreclosed homes, they're using an agent, they're putting it on the market just like any other property. With some foreclosed homes, they're going to auction. And so if you see something where it says that it's an auction, that doesn't work well with the mortgage process because they want their money quickly. Any other questions?
Oh, well, I don't know if it's a question. I'm just thinking about the fact that, okay, see, there's a general saying that goes, what goes up must surely come down. But in real estate, they say what goes up, it will go up and up and up and up. But with what is going on right now, COVID and everything, we've seen, the house home price going up, abnormally. Like some prices that are supposed to go up within the range of 10 years, going up within the range of 2 years.
Right.
Now, to protect my own interest, buying a home for myself is as well as investing. So investment. So to protect my own interest, what if I buy a home 2 years ago? The home used to be like $150,000. Now, because of the recession and everything, it's $250,000. So which is very abnormal.
Right.
So what if home price crashes? So what would be, I would like to defend my own interests because that's a form of investment.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the question is about, again, housing bubble and protecting one's interest if housing prices come down. Great question. And I'm going to use a real life example to answer. So, again, we all know what happened during the Great Recession. Housing prices came down. And so we have to remember what caused that, supply and demand. So we have to, take a look at supply and demand when answering this question too. But in the event that something like that happens, what I tell people, the reason I tell people that owning a home is an investment versus an expense is to that exact point. You have to pay somebody something to live somewhere, right? And so whether you're paying somebody else or whether you're paying yourself, you are paying money to live somewhere. Even in the event of housing crashes, let's say, you buy a house, like I said, 150, and let's say it either never appreciates 1 penny, or let's say it goes down $25,000 to $125,000. Once you make your last mortgage payment, you still have an asset. You have to pay somebody to live somewhere. So whether you can pay rent and get nothing in return for it, or you can pay the mortgage payment, and even if that scenario happens, at the end of the day, you can walk away with something that you can sell, that you can borrow against. You walk away with something versus nothing, right? Now, we also have to look at that question through the lens of history. So through the lens of history, I like comparing housing to the stock market. So historically, we know that the stock market is going to have ups and then there are going to be some downs. But historically, it's on a positive trajectory. It's the same for the housing market too. It's on a positive trajectory. So, the house that I purchased, I got it for $199,000. We sold that house for $207,000. Now I still keep an eye on that house because I wish we would have made it an investment property. So that house today is worth close to $500,000. And so where we purchased that house at, right? If we were still there, it's $500,000. If that house dropped to $200,000, we still won. We still won. And so you have to look at, buying through the lens of investing, playing the long game with it. Because historically, it's going to be positive. Any other questions? All right. So I'm going to pass it over to Thomas, who's our financial guru.